Welcome to lesson one. This is basic formulas. Now, Excel has tons and tons and tons of formulas, so we're not going to try to cover even a small fraction of all of those formulas, but just the one that occurs most often in a salesperson's life. So, of course, one thing that happens is you get a group of numbers together and you say, gosh, what's the total of those numbers? Of course, one thing is it's usually displayed right down here in the bottom corner. You can change what shows up down here just by changing here what shows up. In this case, you see average, count, and then, of course, the sum. So I know the sum of those numbers is 684. Um, Another way that I might want to calculate that is I could always say, whenever you start a formula in Excel, you start off with equals. So I could say it's equal to this number plus this number plus this number plus this number. And of course, I'd get 684. And you can see the formula up here if I needed to come back and edit it. The other thing that I could do is Excel has a function for this. If I didn't know what function I even wanted to start with, I can just go up here to the Insert Function button, or I could go here to the Formulas tab. And if I go to Insert Function, here's the ones that I've most recently used. I could tell Excel what I'm looking for, and it might suggest formulas that would help me out here. And you can see sum is one of these suggested choices. Of course, I happen to know that I want to use the sum function. So you can see I'm typing it in here. It shows up in the formula bar. If I click right here, now it's suggesting it in the formula wizard. So what do you want to do? And I could put number one, number two, number three. I could select a range. So you'll notice that the colon means everything from the first choice to the last choice. Now in this case, they're all in a straight line, but I could also sum an entire square of numbers. Excel doesn't really care. So equals sum, whoops, from here, colon, to here. And press enter. And of course, I'm going to get my same total again. Another function that I might want to know, so you see the sum, and I can do a sum right here equals sum of these numbers. So obviously I'm going to get the same total. But the function that I've selected here, this one's sum, and this one is called subtotal. So you'll notice if I copy this formula across, now I'm summing from C3 to C6. Another little tool that's helpful in the formulas tab, you want to know what numbers go into this total. You can go up here to formulas, and under the formula auditing tab, you can say trace precedence. And it's showing me that all of these go into this number. So this number here is called subtotal. And if you break out the formula bar, you break out the wizard. So there's function, which function 9. So I'm going to ask for help on that function. What does 9 mean? So 1 is the average, 2 is the count, 3 is count A, which is the count of alphabetical things, whereas this is the count of numbers. Min, max, so what's the highest number in that list? What's the lowest number in the list? I can multiply, standard deviations, but the one that most everybody uses is number 9, which is the sum. And again, Excel does a pretty good job with its help function. If you kind of already know what you're looking for, it does a decent job of explaining what that thing will do for you. So, what's not intuitively obvious, since this number is giving me the same thing as this number, why do I need a subtotal? Well, a subtotal tells you the difference between the things that are, so the sum says this is the total of the list, period, full stop. Subtotal says this is the total of all of the selected things. Now, in this case, we have the complete list, so there's no difference between the two. But oftentimes when you're looking at your data, I'm going to select this data and go to filter. So data filter, and then right now we only want to look at, let's just say these two territories, the South and the West. So I'll turn off North, I'll turn off East. Now what you can see, since this is the sum, it's the same number. Even though the other two numbers are hidden, you see it's the same total. The subtotal only totals the visible items. So you can see that these visible items only total to 390, even though the entire list still totals to 733. So I can take this number. Now when I want to fill across, so in Excel, there is almost always two ways, most probably three ways to accomplish the same thing. So I could just copy this formula here, and I could paste it there. So in this case, I'm going to bring up an on-screen keyboard to show you. So here I've got the number. I'm going to Control C, so you can see the Control C that I pressed. And then I will go here and Control V. The other thing I can do is I can use, so you see this little skinny plus that I get right here on the corner. I can use it to fill across, and you'll see it when I start to drag. You'll see down here at the bottom, it'll tell me drag outside selection to fill, drag inside selection to clear. So if I go this way, then that number fills all the way across, and of course it changes the subtotal for each column that's relevant as I go across. So you can see it goes from C to D to E as the formula changes here. And then I'll unhide my other data here, and since this is just a straight sum, I'll just drag it down. And there we go. Clear up the trash. And those are the basic sum and formula totals. Since we've got a little bit more time in these videos, I will talk about some of the other formatting functions in Excel, like changing the width of the column to the widest piece of data. So you can go here to total. I can stretch it out. So when I get up here, you get the double-headed arrow. If I double click there, it will snap to the widest data that's in that column. Now, a lot of times for column A, where I have functions that span multiple columns, that'll widen out too much for the data. But you can see I'm just double clicking each one of these. If I want them all to be the same, I can select multiples, and then here I'm just going to pick some random width, and now they're all that same width. So helps you clean up your data, make it look a little nicer as you're putting these spreadsheets together. So anyway, that's about it for the very basic formulas. So come back for lesson 2. Thanks very much.